Okay, so continuing on, welcome everybody. I am just so excited to share this with you today. We're going to talk about the great planetary shifts of 2025 to 2028.
Okay.
And hi, everyone over there on YouTube. Welcome in. And everybody on YouTube, please go ahead and put your name and location into the live chat or into the comments if you're watching this later. And oh my goodness, we are so excited to be here with you today. So I am Jocelyn Starfeather, and I am here with Anna and Kathleen. Hi, Anna and Kathleen. Welcome. And Anna and Kathleen are our multi-galactic course managers for the Quantum School. They are working so much magic continually behind the scenes and here live with you on these amazing calls that we have. How are you both doing today? Good, good, good.
Amazing.
Yay. Yeah. So wonderful to be here with you guys. Thank you for all that you do to make all the magic happen in the quantum school. And much love to you. So, everybody, welcome in. We have over 4,000 people signed up for this webinar. So, I know there is so much interest in these great planetary shifts that we're moving through. Welcome, welcome to everybody coming in from all around the world. I'm just delighted to share this with you. So let me make sure all of our technology settings are working properly because we want to be in good alignment with Mercury as we begin. Let's see here. Okay, yes, everything looks good. And yeah, huge welcome to everybody coming in all around the world. This is so exciting to share this with you today. So I have a really beautiful presentation that I'm going to share with you. Again, it is called The Great Planetary Shifts of 2025 to 2028. So let's get started with that without any further ado. All right. So this is a super incredibly powerful time that we're moving into. And, we want to keep in mind that all of us here, all of us on this call listening in, have been through these times when we've really been navigating the breakdown. And we saw this very significantly beginning in the year 2020. I can remember in January 2020 listening to the year ahead forecast from the astrologers and looking at the charts, and it was this Pluto Saturn conjunction at the same time as major eclipses. It was these incredibly powerful but destructive transits, and including the outer planets, a lot of transits from the outer planets, especially with Saturn and Pluto. Uranus was involved in the upcoming years after that as well. And Neptune was navigating the final degrees of Pisces. So at that time in 2020, it was very much about the breakdowns. It was very much about the endings, the releasing, the letting go. And we've really been moving through that from 2020, especially through 2023. Now, 2024 marked a shifting point, and I talked about this at the beginning of last year. 2024 began to be this time when we're still releasing and we're still seeing the destruction and we're still seeing the breakdowns, but this magic starts coming in that wasn't so present, that wasn't so available in the previous years. And that increased opportunity for magic, increased opportunity for synchronicities, and our full abilities, our full powers coming online are a huge part of what we're going to continue to see opening up. And there's much more of a new birth energy. There's much more of a harmonic energy as we're moving into these upcoming years of 2025 to 2028. So it's really interesting. I really see the years of 2020 to 2023 as the breakdown years, the major breakdowns. Just huge changes, so overwhelming. 2024 is like this liminal kind of turning point where we turn toward the magic, but it's still slow. We're talking about huge planetary movements, huge societal movements. And then in 2025 to 2028, the doors are opening to this incredible magic. Like I said, the awakening of our abilities and our potentials like never before. So, this is what I want to share with you today. And I want to show you astrologically where we can see this and how incredible it is. So, we're going to really dive into that today. And as we have said in the emails that we're going out announcing this webinar, if you're ready to lean into miracles, if you're ready to embrace the unknown in a way that you know it is opening you up to your fullest potential, you know, we wanted to be here now. We wanted to experience this magic. We wanted to be a part of all this, right? So this is what we get to do now. This is what we get to do next. And I know we're all feeling it in our heart, in our soul, like in our bones, you know, in our DNA. We're feeling this. We're feeling these changes and shifts coming through, turning us toward the magic and the possibilities. Now, for those who may be new to the Sacred Planet community and the Quantum School community, I just want to introduce myself briefly here. My name is Jocelyn Starfeather. I am a visibility coach for visionary entrepreneurs. I am an astrologer and a sacred site pilgrimage leader as well. I have founded Sacred Planet and I have founded the Quantum School. And this webinar is a production of the Quantum School, and you're going to learn more about that as we go. And my mission here, my sole purpose, and what my soul is just so passionate about doing here in this lifetime, is to guide you, each and every one of you out there who is ready to break free from everything that has held you back in the past. And that's a very Uranian energy, that statement. We're going to talk about that today when we connect with Uranus. But this is really what we're here to do, right? We're here to break out of the old bonds and limitations and rules and restrictions and liberate ourselves and find our sovereignty and our power. And so I am here as a guide to assist in that in the different ways that I do. And you can learn more about my work on my main website, which is wearesacredplanet.com. You can also check out the Quantum School website, which is quantum-school.com, and find my YouTube channel. I have so many amazing and fun free videos out there on YouTube for you to enjoy. So as we are going to be diving in with the planets today, I want to begin us with this alchemical prayer. And this is a prayer that was gifted to me by my guides many years ago now, that really opens the possibilities up in your life beyond what you ever thought they could be. And so I invite you, if you're not already doing this, to say this prayer, if it feels aligned for you, 3 times a day, every day. And you will see the mountains moving in your life. You will see the magic and miracles coming in just from saying this prayer. It's incredible, the doors that it opens. So let's just say this together 3 times. And I always recommend to turn toward the sun in your location, put the palms of your hands up toward the sun. And this also opens your heart and opens your chest toward the sun. And we'll say this 3 times together. Dear universe, please send me all of the things that I need and most deeply desire that I do not even yet know are possible. Dear universe, please send me all of the things that I need and most deeply desire that I do not even yet know are possible. Dear universe, please send me all of the things that I need and most deeply desire that I do not even yet know are possible. And then closing your eyes, bringing your hands into your heart center. Take a really deep breath in and let yourself receive. Because the universe is always sending you infinite gifts. And we want to really receive them. We want to really take them into our heart and let ourselves be nourished and abundant and joyful in all that we do. So taking one more deep breath in, receiving these incredible gifts. And on the out breath, as you feel ready, open your eyes, come back fully present here, and we can begin. I am just checking the chat. And let's see, is my volume low? Let me, everybody, I can check my audio settings. Let's see, audio. Okay, tell me if this gets better. And if this gets better, that should actually, the second one, is it better now, everybody? Send me a little heart if it's better. Thumbs up, hearts. Okay, great. Great, great. All right, wonderful. Sorry about that, everyone. Zoom seems to reset my audio settings every so often. Oh, I love all the hearts coming up. It's great. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, thank you all for letting me know, and we got it fixed. Okay, so I'm going to mention the precession of the equinoxes just briefly here. And let me change one more setting. Hold on, everybody. Gonna do this speaker view. Okay, very good. Let's go back to the slides. Okay, so I'm going to mention the precession of the equinoxes briefly. Now, I have whole videos about this. If you're interested in this topic, it is an incredibly powerful topic to dive into the precession of the equinoxes. And these are the great 26,000 year cycles that we move through as we travel through the galaxy. And so what's being discovered more recently, okay, is that the precession of the equinoxes is due to these great 26,000 year cycles of how the sun is moving through the galaxy. And at different points in time on that 26,000 year cycle, we are moving through a different area of the galaxy. So if you can imagine, the sun is moving at just lightning fast speed, and it is orbiting around something now. It could be going around another star. We actually, astronomically, we don't know the answer to this question yet. Most stars in the Milky Way galaxy are binary stars, meaning that they are a twin set of stars orbiting around a common barycenter, which is a common center of gravity, or they're essentially pulling on each other's gravity and orbiting around one another. And there are quite many, many theories out there now that the sun and Sirius, for example, could be binary stars together, that we are connected with the Sirius star system and then our solar system, and that we are sharing the common center of gravity with the star Sirius. That's quite possible. In any case, what we do know now is that the sun is just covering huge, huge areas, huge swaths of the galaxy. And of course, all of us, the planets, the Earth and all the other planets in the solar system are following along with the sun, orbiting the sun each in our own orbit around the sun, our great star. And so we are covering huge distances here. So it would make sense that as we move through, one part of the galaxy over here, we might be moving through a space that holds very high consciousness, that holds a lot of light, that holds a lot of really high frequency energy. And as we're moving through another area of the galaxy, that might be an area with a lot of wounding, with a lot of shadows to move through, with a lot of, difficult karma that's held in that area of the galaxy. So we're moving around. And it's just incredible to think about this, right? And this is where we see the rise and fall of civilizations, the changing from one ice age, to a more warmer climate, and so on. It's happening not only based on the forces here on Earth, but also the forces that are around us in the galaxy, that we are traveling through these different areas as we go. Now, the ancient people noticed these great 26,000 year cycles, and they recorded it. And we can see over time, for example, during the age of Aries. Okay, this was from about 2150 BC until about the year 0, the birth of Jesus, right? This was a 2,150 year time frame where we see the rise of war. We see the rise of imagery related to the ram. And if you go to Karnak Temple, you'll see this in an incredible way, because there is a more than 1 mile long road that is lined with ram sphinxes the whole way down, that were all built during the age of Aries. Before that, during the age of Taurus, the 2,150 years before that, we see civilizations all around the planet that were placing this symbolism of the bull and the cow at the center of their structure of divinity. And so it's just incredible how humanity responds as we're moving through these different ages of where the sun is rising on the spring equinox, which I'm not going to go way into that, but just, that's how we decide which age we're in. And now we are on the cusp of between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. This means where the sun is rising on the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere right now is right on this line between the constellation of Pisces and the constellation of Aquarius. So we are moving into the age of Aquarius. We've been in the age of Pisces for the last 2,000 years or more. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. And if we look exactly opposite to that on these great cycles, the 12,500 years ago or so was the age of Leo. That was the time when the last ice age had just ended. This whole younger Dryas time was occurring, and great, great changes were occurring on the earth. And now we are opposite that. And so, what the ancient people noticed and what we see now today, as we're coming back into awareness of all this, is the times that the prophecies foretell occur at these pivotal points when we're in the age of Leo and the age of Aquarius. Every 12 to 13,000 years, we go through a time of major change, major breakdown, and then rebirth of what is happening in our world. So this aligns with the prophecies that were told on every continent, from the Native Americans, from the Egyptians, from the Sumerians, from the ancient Chinese astrologers. In the ancient Vedic texts, we find mention and listing and detailed tracking of these great precessional cycles. And then we see that the ancient people built these alignments of these great cycles into their temples, into their stone circles, right? And wrote them in their ancient texts. For example, the texts at the Temple of Edfu, the building texts. For example, in the Yuga cycles that we read about in the Sanskrit texts. And I could go on and on and on. It's written, it's recorded, it's documented in stone from every continent all around the world. And so what is really important about that is we are standing at that very, very important turning point in the great ages once again, because we are moving into the age of Aquarius. So we want to be aware of this, and we want to be really aware of how do we work with this. And we can look to our current planetary alignments to tell us more about that. Oh, here's an extra note about Egypt, because you all know I love Egypt so much. So this is the pyramids at Giza on the Giza Plateau. And here we have the beautiful Sphinx. So the Sphinx and the pyramids at Giza, there is increasing evidence, increasing research is showing they were likely constructed during the age of Leo. So this would have been between 12,800 to 10,700 BC. This was just after the Great Flood. This was the time of Zep-Tepi for the Egyptians, the time when we begin again, the new beginning. Now, the Sphinx was most likely originally a lion, and she was facing the eastern horizon, facing the rising of the Leo constellation at that time when she was constructed. Now, there is a chance that they could have actually been constructed even 26,000 years before that in the previous age of Leo, because the star alignments would have been consistent with that as well. So we can dream into these possibilities. It's far more vast than we even know. But I like to say that the Giza Plateau is a massive clock, and it is recording not just the hours of the day or the days of the year, but it is recording the years in these great 26,000 year cycles and reminding us so that we could remember today. So here's another view of the Giza Plateau from the air and the Sphinx. This was on one of our tours when we got to be between the paws of the Sphinx. You can see how massive her paws are. So this is helping us to remember now. So what we have here that we're going to really explore today is the powerful alignments of the outer planets and Mars. Mars is playing a really important role here, even though he's not an outer planet, but we're going to bring him into the conversation from 2025 to 2028. And we'll come back to this chart a few different times in the presentation, but I want to start you out here because I want to show you this incredible date and what's coming up and what will be aligning in the sky. Let me just check the chat one more time and make sure everything is good. Okay. Everything looks good. So we have on August 11th, this next month coming up. All right, we have this incredible date with many, many amazing alignments. So the first alignment that I'm going to point out to you is the outer planets. So we have the 4 outer planets: Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Now, the outer planets, just to give a really brief overview statement on the energy that they hold for us. These outer planets are helping and guiding us in our collective evolution, the big picture of what's happening, the collective of humanity and where we are going. Now, they do help us personally as well, but the outer planets are really focusing on the big societal movements, the big movements on like what is happening on the whole of planet Earth. So if we look at the alignments that the 4 outer planets are in here in this chart, you will see they have each just moved into a new sign, and they are each in trines and sextiles to one another. Let me show you what I mean by that. So we have Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius. Pluto moves very slowly, and he's been working on moving into Aquarius for a few years now, but finally in November 2024, he fully moved into Aquarius, not to go back into Capricorn anymore in our lifetimes. So Pluto here in this chart is at 2 degrees of Aquarius. Then we have Saturn and Neptune, both right here at 1 degree of Aries, the very beginning of the zodiac, 1 degree of Aries. They have both quite recently, just in the last several months, moved into Aries. And you can see they're in a conjunction. They're going to have their exact conjunction in February 2026, but they're very close on this date. And then we also have Uranus. Uranus here is at 1 degree of Gemini. Uranus just moved into Gemini earlier this month. It was 7/7/2025 that Uranus moved into Gemini, or 7/7/7, as I like to say. And so if you look at the alignment of these planets, this is really special. First of all, Uranus and Pluto are in a trine position to one another. That is a favorable alignment. And both Pluto and Uranus are in a sextile position to Saturn and Neptune. Trines and sextiles are harmonic. They are favorable. This means that these 4 outer planets are working favorably and harmoniously with one another. And I really want to point that out because that's very different than if they were all in squares or oppositions to one another. That would be much more destructive, much more challenging. We would feel that in a much more difficult way. And the really amazing thing about this is that the 3 outer planets, now we've got Saturn involved here, but he moves a little faster than those other 3, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So Saturn's going to stay here throughout this year and early 2026, but then he's going to move on to Aries, throughout Aries. But then we're still going to have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, the slower moving 3 outer planets, continuing with these trines and sextile alignments all the way through 2028. So this is not a fleeting energy. This is an energy that really is just kicking in right now as we're speaking, as we're holding this webinar today, and is going to be continuing for the next 3 to 4 years. Remember, it is harmonic, it is in favor of our collective highest evolution, and it is harmonious. These planets are acting harmoniously with one another. So this is incredible. And I have looked back in the records, because you can scroll back in Stellarium and you can look in the previous astrological records. I've also heard Rick Levine say this similar thing, that he went way back in the records. You cannot find a time in history when all 4 outer planets had just moved into new signs and were all in trines and sextiles to one another, even if you go back 10,000 years. So this is something really special that hasn't ever happened ever, anytime in recent memory or in recorded history. This is really amazing. So I can't emphasize that enough. And so as we are looking at these alignments and we're thinking about what does this mean for us, we want to come into connection with the fact that the planets are conscious and they are intelligent and they are alive. Now, this, of course, is going to be, something that a mainstream scientist would not agree with. However, I think we know that mainstream science and mainstream academia, has gone too far into trying to make everything provable and strictly logical. I think we know that the Earth is alive, right? I think we know that plants and animals are alive. We know that stars have life cycles. They must be alive. And the other planets alongside the Earth must be alive, right? And so these are forces, these are living, intelligent forces out there in the solar system, these outer planets that we're particularly talking about today, as well as all the planets, as well as the sun and the stars. And they are guiding our collective evolution. They are assisting. They have been guiding us through the mysteries of time and space and the rise and fall of ice ages and the rise and fall of civilizations since before humans ever started writing things down, since before recorded history began. Now, the ancient people were very aware of this. They knew that they needed to connect to the divinity of the cosmos. They had practices and rituals that every single day they were doing to connect with the planets and the stars. This is why they were tracking the movements of the cosmos so closely. They knew what every planetary and star alignment was that was coming up for the upcoming months and years and even decades ahead, because they understood that that had a very significant impact on what would be happening in their lives and on the earth. And so they knew how to use the energy of specific alignments. They knew how to create rituals or create talismans or to say the right prayers and incantations at the right time to divinely time their activities, such as the building of a new temple or the crowning of a new queen or king or many other activities. So in this way, we as humans, for most of our history, have built our civilizations and lived our lives guided by the intelligence from the cosmos above. And I have a really cool example of this. So I have this book right here. This is the Picatrix. Let me just make sure you guys can see this in the window. Okay, this is the Picatrix. This is a book that was originally written in the 1400s. And I highly recommend checking this out. This is an astrological, astronomical, and magical manual. Now, it goes through so many incredible things that we have forgotten for a long time, but they still knew in the 1400s. They were still documenting this. Now, these were carried forward from ancient Sumeria, ancient Egypt, came through ancient Greece, and from other ancient cultures as well. And this includes sections, for example, titled, If You Want to Speak with the Sun, or If You Want to Speak with Saturn, here's what you do. Here's the ritual. Here are the clothes to wear to align with that planet. Here are the words to say, right? And that's just one small section. It's quite extensive what's included in this book. So this was the known astrological, astronomical, and magical knowledge at that time. And this is only a tiny piece of what they knew 1,000 years before that, or 2 or 3,000 years before that, right? So for most of human history, we've been very, very connected in with the cosmos, with the divinity above us. And we have gone through a time of forgetting. But the amazing news is we're remembering now. I have another note here on the slide, which is a realization I've recently made. We know in ancient Egypt that they would call in the goddess Seshet. The king would call upon Seshet. She's the one who reads the Akashic records and reads the star alignments and helps them to know when is the right time to build the temple, to construct the new temple, so that it can be in perfect alignment with the stars and the planets to bring in the energies that are needed for what needs to be done in that temple. And what I realized, I was reading about talismans and I was researching the Picatrix, and there is this concept that you want to create things, you want to build things, you want to, even create like a bracelet or a necklace that you would wear as a talisman when there are very specific planetary and star alignments. And I realized this is what they were doing with the temples. So imagine that every temple is a massive talisman that was very specifically and carefully planned to be built, to have the ground broken, to have the stones cut, to have the structure put together at a specific time, to be aligned with specific stars and constellations and planetary energies. I mean, that's just incredible. And that's what we experience when we go to Egypt. We walk through the temples, we feel that energy that they so carefully designed. So this is deep. This is such a profound part of us and our understanding of reality, even on a subconscious level that we don't consciously remember. But the cool thing is we're remembering now. So if we look at the planets and we think about, wow, these planets are conscious, we begin to see, and especially for all of you out there who are studying astrology or who are astrologers, you can really see that the planets want certain things for us, right? And these planets are really special to us. They're like our family members because we live here on the Earth. The Earth is a planet. We think of her as our mother. She birthed us and all life as we know it. And then these other planets that are orbiting the same star as our Earth, they're like her brothers and sisters. They're like our family members. And a really cool part of this is that each of those family members, each of those planets is bringing forward a different archetype, different number of archetypes, so that when we work with all of them together, we're working with the whole of creation. We're working with all the different archetypes that exist out in the universe, all the different archetypes that exist within each of us. And this is individual to us as well because we hold these archetypes. We each hold a very specific Plutonian archetype, a very specific Jupiterian archetype within ourselves. And the map for this is shown in your birth chart. So we are naturally connected in with the divinity. You know, it's really cool to think about this too. So as I was saying about the temples being talismans, you too, each of us are like an astrological talisman because we came into being. We were born and we drew our first breath at a very specific point in time under very specific planetary and star alignments. And those energies are then expressed and lived by us throughout our whole incredible lifetime. You're expressing the energy of Jupiter as he was when you were born. You're expressing the energy of Mercury as he was when you were born throughout your entire life. I mean, this is amazing. So when we begin to really open up to what the planets are saying to us, to how they support and guide us, when we come to see them as our cosmic family, we really reopen the possibilities for infinite creation, for magic, for the true sovereign power that is within us and that our ancient ancestors knew so well. And we can look back to the Egyptian texts, the Sumerian texts, the teachings of the ancient Native American ancestors, right? They all held mastery in this field of astrology and astronomy, which to them were not two separate things. To them, astrology and astronomy would be one sacred science, right? And so we are remembering that mastery now, and we can turn to the planets as beings who want to assist and support us in our evolution. Let's see, I'm checking the chat again, and we will have some time for Q&A at the end. I know there's a lot of questions, but I want to share this all with you, and then we'll go to the Q&A. So as I was saying, each planet wants to help us in really specific ways. So let's look at these powerful outer planets who, as I've mentioned, will be in trines and sextiles to one another from 2025 to 2028. And let's see what they have to say. Let's see how they're going to be working with us over the next 3 to 4 years to open up the magical portals. So first of all, the consciousness of Saturn. Saturn is the first of these 4 outer planets that we're looking at today. So what does Saturn want for us? What is Saturn saying to us? Now, Saturn is Father Time. He is Chronos. He is very, very interested in the long spans of time. Okay, he's very interested in actually that precessional cycle. And he's looking at our lives as a whole and even beyond this lifetime. And what he wants to help us do is he wants to help us do good work while we're here. You know, he's very much about work. He's very focused on work and responsibility. And how can we really carry that well? How can we get on our highest path and offer our highest contribution? Do our best work in the world while we're here? How can we leave a lasting and positive legacy to the world? And this is one of Saturn's biggest questions to us is, What are you going to do in this lifetime so that even after you leave, even after your life is done, your positive legacy lives on? Saturn really is very focused on helping us get onto our highest path. And this is where we get a little frustrated with him, because we see that Saturn sometimes put obstacles into our path, obstacles and frustrations into our lives. But let's look at what's really happening there. And you'll see with some of these planets, I'm doing a reframe because some of these planets like Saturn, and we're going to talk about Mars a little later, they have been labeled malefic. And I think that is just wrong. I think that is something that came about as the patriarchy developed. And in fact, when we look back to the Sanskrit text, when we look back to the ancient Egyptian way of seeing the planets, they were not malefic. They were all supporting and assisting us. And somewhere along the way, there was this label that was put on Saturn. Saturn's malefic. Mars is malefic. They bring bad things. I'm putting air quotes when I say bad because what is good? What is bad? They're all offering us very clear and specific archetypes to help us on our path, right? So I invite you, if you have resistance to the idea of thinking about Saturn or working with Saturn, I'm inviting you into a paradigm shift here to help you and help all of us, shift out of these false perceptions of what Saturn represents. So, as I was saying, Saturn puts obstacles and frustrations in our path when we're on the wrong path. Because you can think of it this way. Let's say that there's two paths. Let's just keep it really simple. Let's say there are two paths you could take in your life, and you're going along this path over here, and you're thinking, oh, this is where I need to be. This is the way I'm meant to go. But Saturn, he sees you and he sees the bigger picture. So he's saying, actually, this path over here is your highest path. This one over here is where you can offer your highest contribution and feel joy and feel fulfillment in your life from doing your greatest work. And so as you go off on this other path that he knows it's not the right one, he's going to put an obstacle or two or three. He's going to block the road. And he's going to wait because Saturn is very patient. He doesn't care really how long it takes. He's going to wait until you realize. And you'll go through these tests and trials and lessons and you realize, oh, wow, I'm supposed to be over there. And gradually you'll make your way there and you'll get on your highest path. And that's what happens at our Saturn return when we are between 28 and 30 years old, then again between 58 to 60 years old, and then again between 88 to 90 years old, if we're lucky enough to live that long. We come up against Saturn and what he can see and how he is helping us to get on that highest path. And we'll run into those obstacles and then we figure it out and we realize we get on the right path if we're paying attention. And then he opens up the whole world to us. When we are listening to Saturn, when we're tuned in to that higher plan, that greatest work that he wants us to do, when we're carrying our responsibilities in a good way, then he opens up all kinds of abundance and beauty and blessings on the path and helps us move forward on that highest path. So it's really incredible to see the shift that happens when we surrender into those lessons. Now, Saturn also helps us to create boundaries, containers, and structure in our lives. He helps us to work with 3D reality. He represents 3D and what we need to do while we're here, and he helps us to kind of contain that and build a solid foundation and create the right kind of structure to help us do what we need to do. So Saturn says, lay the solid foundations for your future. Have clean boundaries. Do your good work. I will help you stay on the straight and narrow path. I will show you the plan. Right? So this is what Saturn wants for us. And we can really lean into that. And especially in these upcoming years, we can work with this energy to improve our lives and to make sure we're doing the work we're meant to do, because then we're going to be the happiest. Let's look at the next planet, Uranus, the consciousness of Uranus and what Uranus wants for us. Now, Uranus is really, really active in our world right now. We are feeling him very strongly. He's just moved into Gemini. He's just come into these exact trines with Pluto and exact sextiles with Saturn and Neptune. He's kind of shifted into place and activated the whole thing. So we're really feeling this right now. And I would love to hear in the chat, right in the chat, right in the YouTube comments, are you feeling the Uranian energies of freedom and liberation right now? So here's the thing. Uranus is here for our complete and total liberation. And he is the higher mind of the universe. He sees the larger plan for all of us. He even sees the larger plan for the whole galaxy, for the whole universe. He's really totally tapped in with that vast cosmic intelligence. Now, he wants to help us reach our full potential without any delay. And you can see Saturn and Uranus are very much opposites to one another. Uranus doesn't want there to be any obstacles. He doesn't want to wait. He just wants it to happen now, and he's ready to send the lightning bolts to help it happen right now. So Uranus will shake things up, break things, send surprising events that change our lives, all in service to our freedom and our sovereign liberty. So again, put a yes in the chat if you're feeling this, if you're ready for this, if you're ready to leap into freedom and liberation. Uranus is here to support us. And the planet Uranus is not afraid of change. He's not afraid of the unknown. He's not afraid of getting outside of comfort zones. He doesn't even know what a outside of comfort zone is. It's all his comfort zone, okay? And he's really inviting you and all of us to gain mastery around embracing change as a portal to everything you've always wanted. So if you think about in your life, think about the radical things you've always wished to do, but you never dared to. Or maybe you just didn't believe it could be possible, so you didn't even give it a try, right? But you know that you could. That is Uranus in your life. And he's really here to step in and say, do the impossible things, dream the impossible dream, do those things you've always wished to but never dared to, especially in 2025 to 2028, because we are so supported by these energies, particularly the Uranian energies right now, to do that. And he's telling us it is possible and you can do it. Now, just like the Saturn cycles and the Saturn return that we have every 30 years, we have a very special cycle where Uranus shows up in our lives. So we have our first Uranus square at age 21, Uranus opposition at age 42, the second and well, the final Uranus square at age 63, and the Uranus return at age 84. So if you're close to any of those ages right now, say yes in the chat, and I will tell you Uranus is working with you very, very strongly right now, especially the Uranus opposition. So you'll notice that that's at age 42, and we really feel that from like maybe age 40 to 44 especially. That's what modern society calls the midlife crisis. Well, it's just Uranus coming in and showing us what we need to change and what we want to rebel against and how we want to claim our freedom in our lives. And it's actually really important to pay attention to that, to do new things, to try, to experiment, with things we haven't done before, to take a leap out of our comfort zone at these particular ages, because then we will receive all the gifts of Uranus when we do that. But also, even if you're not at one of these ages, Uranus is working with us so strongly in the sky right now, you're going to be feeling his effects. And Uranus asks you, what is the act of chaos that would change everything in your life and that your heart is deeply longing for? And how can you say yes to making it happen? And with this, from my heart to yours, everybody, I really invite you to take that leap, to choose that act of chaos in your life sometime during the next 3 or 4 years, 2025 to 2028, because we are so, so supported with these energies right now. It's very exciting. And so this is the magic breaking through, right? This is like the things we never knew were possible, and suddenly it's happening. And I've heard so many stories from people recently, people who never thought they would find a new relationship or a new partner. Suddenly, this incredible person shows up in their lives, right? Or somebody who's been, didn't know where home was, didn't know where to find, their people, their community. All of a sudden, they find the right place, right? This is the magic. This is Uranus breaking through, showing us the way and showing us what's possible that we never thought could be. Okay. I love all the comments. Love it. Love it. Yes, yes, yes. I choose the act of chaos for my life, for my highest good. Yes. Beautiful. Okay, so let's look at the next outer planet here, Neptune. So, what is the consciousness of Neptune? What does Neptune want for us? Well, Neptune is the furthest reaches of the imaginal and multidimensional realms. He is the all, right? So it's like the oceans and the cosmos, all of that combined out to the infinite degree. And truly, with Neptune, there are no limits, no boundaries, and all is one. And this is a very important thing about Neptune. Neptune includes all that is. So Neptune really brings us back to our highest consciousness, knowing that we are all one, that we are all connected. You know, Indra's web is very, very aligned with this idea of Neptune, that we are all connected and woven together by these incredibly light-filled threads, and that I am as connected to the tree outside my door as I am to the planet Neptune, as I am to, you know, a bird flying by, as I am to my own daughter. We are all one, right? And so within that construct of understanding we are all one, then every possibility is continually available to us. Now, this is confusing. Neptune can actually cause a lot of confusion because from our limited human perspective, we're thinking, but how can that even be? You know, it's like, it's hard for us to understand. It's hard for us to comprehend. But Neptune invites us to trust. Neptune invites us to take a deep breath and dive into that limitless starry ocean, knowing that we are held, knowing that all is one, all is well. And Neptune is very much about surrender. There's a part here too that I don't have on the slide where Neptune is about our unconscious and subconscious knowings. So there's, you know, Neptune is telling us there's so much more going on than what you consciously think in your mind. There's so much more. And he really invites us to dive into what we remember deep in our bones and our blood and our DNA, what we have always known, right? So he is a huge part of this awakening. And Neptune invites us to feel and sense rather than try to know or understand. And through doing that, feeling and sensing, we come back into our intuition. We come back into our psychic gifts, our ability to heal beyond limits, right? So there's this energy with Neptune of swimming in the great oceans, traversing the great multidimensional realms, and there we find everything we've been looking for. So as it says here, a message from Neptune: your spiritual, psychic, and intuitive powers are being awakened. And I'm sure you all are feeling this. This is happening en masse in our world today. All of these powers are being awakened within us that bring us back to the truth that all is one, right? He also says, your trust in the great mystery, the great unknown, is growing day by day. You are one with all that is, and everything will be more beautiful than you can possibly imagine. What you thought were miracles are actually how the universe works every single day, every single minute. If you find this confusing, do not worry. Your mind cannot understand this, and that is okay. Open your heart to receive the gifts. And so you can see how this is so important for us to embrace now. And so go ahead and put a yes in the chat if you're super deeply feeling the Neptunian energies, which are becoming very activated at 0 and 1 degrees of Aries right now at this time. And Aries marks a new beginning. You know, the fact that Saturn and Neptune are together at 0 degrees of Aries, this is a whole new beginning. Again, this is like bringing in the new magic, bringing in the new energies of everything we didn't know that was available to us. It's a new start, a new beginning right now, and Neptune is a huge part of that activation. Yes, I see so many yeses popping up. Amazing. Okay, so now I want to share with you the consciousness of Pluto and what Pluto wants for us. And this is another little reframe paradigm shift that I'm going to give you. You can see I have an image here of Osiris. And I think that Osiris, this very beneficent, very caring and, fatherly figure, is a much more accurate representation of these Plutonian energies than the kind of Pluto Hades archetype of ancient Greece. Because we got to keep in mind, the Pluto Hades archetype was very overshadowed by the patriarchal energy. And we hear stories about, kidnapping Persephone and carrying her off. And, it's very patriarchal. So I invite you to not think of Pluto in that way at all. If we go back to the far, deep, ancient understanding of this energy, it's going to be much more aligned with Osiris, with this mystery and magic in the shamanic realms, right? And so Pluto is very much about embracing our shamanic abilities and embracing the purely shamanic nature of the world, that we are continually traversing in and out of the liminal realms, and that we know how to journey from this physical 3D reality into the non-physical and bring back the wisdom, bring back the messages from the unseen beings, the unseen forces. Now, Pluto as a planet shows us the evolutionary intent of our soul. And this is very important. We want to really recognize that our soul is continually evolving, is continually on a journey toward higher and higher and more fully aligned and high consciousness iterations of what it is doing and what it is creating in the world. And so that's why we continually are coming into a new lifetime to try new things, learn new lessons, and reach higher and higher consciousness, hopefully each time. So Pluto is watching over all of this, assisting and supporting in that evolutionary journey that we are continually on. And he assists us most especially in letting the old parts of ourselves die so that we can be born into continually new and more highly conscious versions of ourselves. And this happens, of course, within the lifetime too. So this is speaking about our journey of dying and being reborn into new lifetimes, but it's also speaking about the death and rebirths that occur within this lifetime while we're still living. And this is something that in ancient Egypt and around the rituals and the rites of Osiris, they were so masterful of this. They had this incredibly deep understanding of the mysteries of life and death. And what does that mean for us in this lifetime that we're living now? So the planet Pluto and the great god Osiris, right, and all those who represent this incredible archetype, ask us to surrender to this death and rebirth as it's happening in our lives and also as it's happening in the world. As Pluto has moved into Aquarius, we're seeing huge death and destruction of the old societal constructs that are no longer working. We are just seeing that in almost every way you could possibly imagine in the world, right? And we're being asked to embrace that because we want to actually facilitate the breakdown so we can build what is new and what is coming next in our world. Similarly, we're seeing this happen in different ways in our lifetime as we're being asked, and we have been asked, especially since 2020, to let go of the old, to clear, to release. And that is all to make space for the new, the rebirth that is coming in. So these are the energies of Pluto. And we can turn to Pluto, or you could, if you don't like the name of that, you could turn to Osiris or any other being. Shiva also is representing this in beautiful ways in the Vedic traditions, right? So there are many different gods and goddesses, Kali as well, that are representing this energy. So when we're feeling stuck, when we are in a dark night of the soul, when we cannot see the way out, it's time to call upon the support and assistance of this planet, Pluto. And in fact, at those moments when we're in the dark night of the soul, when we're feeling stuck, when we can't see the way out, he's already there. He's already helping us to midwife this process within ourselves to ensure that imminent new birth. So as we are so deep in the destruction, the deconstruction of so much of our world, We can turn to Pluto, the planet. We can turn to these other outer planets to assist and support us. And Pluto says, this is Pluto's message for us: you are becoming the phoenix, and you will rise from your own ashes. I will initiate you into your own true and deep power. The more you can surrender, the easier it will be. And that's really very, very true. The more we fight and claw and try to not be making the changes, not be claiming our freedom, not be claiming our power, right? The harder it's going to be. But the more we can surrender into that, embrace it and accept it, then we can be in flow. Then we can be in connection with the divine currents of the cosmos that are moving through us at this time. And that is really the invitation right now, is to work with these planets in beautiful ways. I'm just doing a little time check here. Okay. So I'm going to share just a few more slides, and then we will look at an amazing opportunity opening up for us here. So how this is all coming together in the transits for the next 3 years is just incredible. So as I said, all 4 of those outer planets are changing signs at the same time. Saturn and Neptune just moved into Aries. Uranus just moved into Gemini. Pluto just moved into Aquarius. That in and of itself, all these sign changes are marking a new beginning, right? And Saturn and Neptune at the Aries point at 0 and 1 degrees of Aries, oh my goodness, it's a complete new beginning and rebirth. So this is just incredible that they've all moved into their new signs at the same time, because these planets are very slow moving. Uranus takes 84 years to go around the zodiac. Neptune takes 165 years to go around. Pluto takes 248 years to go around. So what are the odds that they all just moved into new signs at the same time? This is extremely rare. And as I said, when I showed you the chart earlier, not only are they all changing signs at the same time, but they're in harmonious and exact geometrical angles to each other, all trines and sextiles, 2025 to 2028. So here's that chart again, just in case you want to come back to it, see it again, right? Re-emphasizing the incredible alignments. So what does this mean for us? Well, these very deep, ancient, and vast intelligences are guiding us. They're guiding us through these revolutions, these awakenings. They're making things possible that we truly have been taught for 500 years, 2,000 years or more were impossible. And it's becoming possible again. And again, if you want to think about this in the larger context, we're moving through a different area of the galaxy now than we were 2,000 years ago. And this is how new things become possible. This is how consciousness and the ice ages and human civilization shifts and changes over time. So this, what we are living in now, is the time that the prophecies have foretold, the prophecies have aligned, and the time is now. And it's so important to remember, we wanted to be here for these great changes, and we can work with these outer planets to harmonize our own energies with these great cosmic shifts that are occurring in our world. And there's so much magic that can happen when we work with the powerful outer planets as guiding forces and allow ourselves to receive their wisdom. Because then it allows us to stay ahead of the curve and experience these great changes in a high frequency, harmonic, and light-filled way, rather than being knocked over by them, right? Because if you're not aware of this and you're looking at what's going on in the world, you're like, oh my gosh, everything's just collapsing and falling apart. I give up, or you go into despair. That is not what we're meant to do right now. We are meant to connect with these energies, to bring these energies into our life, to work our own magic with them, so that, as it says here, we're ahead of the curve. We're fulfilling the Aquarian dream of being the visionary, seeing the future, seeing what's coming next, and then we can work with it in the most incredible ways, right? We're also really bringing online our deeper intuitive, psychic, and visionary abilities and letting those take the lead in our lives. And this helps us to trust and surrender. We know that something much bigger than what our minds can understand is happening. And then we can step into our abilities as a creator being. We can step into our true potential, and really life becomes magical. And so we're not weighed down by the heaviness of the 3D. We're not stuck in that. We're not trapped in that anymore. We're already leaning into the future, living the new potentials. And that is incredible. And that's how we open up miracles in our lives. We also are going to find our creativity, our freedom, our power, and our sovereignty blossoming within us like never before. And this is all being activated right now by the Lion's Gate. That's especially why I was showing you that chart from August 11th, tapping into the Lion's Gate energies, because there is this, and I'm just going to go right to the chart, incredible Venus and Jupiter and the star Sirius conjunction all together at 13 and 14 degrees of Cancer. Now, this is incredible. If you have taken the class with me about the Miraculous Money Intensive, you've heard me talk about this. This is just beyond belief that this is all happening at the same time as these outer planet alignments. And so this date, August 11th, and this Venus Jupiter conjunction also goes into August 12th, is a major activation and awakening moment of these new harmonic energies coming in. So we really want to be tapped into that. We really want to be aware of it, connecting with it, and utilizing the energies for our highest good. Okay, I'm going to skip through a little bit of this because we're getting short on time. I will just say this is incredible that we have Pluto in Aquarius trine Uranus in Gemini, exact 6 times in the next 3 years. This is incredible. Now, I'm going to be announcing a new class, a new course in just a few minutes. We're going to go way into this in that class. So I'm going to skip through this for now because I want to show you one more thing here. What about Mars? I mentioned Mars at the beginning. Now, Mars is not technically an outer planet, but he is in that lineup beyond the Earth, farther away from the sun than the Earth. But Mars is really key in this chart. Let me just go back to this chart and show you something. Look at Mars here. We have Mars at 2 degrees of Libra. Oh, well, this is really interesting because what Mars is doing is he's activating a grand air trine. So we have Mars at 2 degrees of Libra, Uranus at 1 degree of Gemini, Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius. This is a grand air trine between Mars, Pluto, and Uranus. Whoa, right? This is huge, huge energies. Again, this is favorable because it's a grand air trine. Now we do have Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So there is an opposition here, and that does bring in maybe a little bit more of a challenging energy, but it's also overruled by the huge grand air trine between Mars, Pluto, and Uranus. So this is very interesting. And all of this is happening on the same day, August 11th. I have not changed the chart. These are all the same chart I've shown you. It's really incredible. So I got to tell you, this day is a major activation of the future. But let's talk about Mars because he's part of this too. So Mars is assisting and supporting us through these massive movements and timeline shifts. And we really need to go deeper with Mars because he has been very, very mistakenly labeled in our modern times. What do you know about Mars? How is he represented usually in astrological terms? Well, we hear about him being aggressive, confrontational. He brings war and violence, anger, rage, fierce individuation, which can be good in some cases, but in astrology, he's often put in a negative light. And also the warrior, which can also be very good, but it can be put into a negative light. So this, I think, is the planet that has been most maligned by the patriarchy. And it's interesting because he's actually come to represent the negative aspects of the patriarchy in the way he is depicted to us today. But what I want to do here and show you today is to go back in time 5,000 or more years ago to the ancient Sanskrit texts, and let's see how Mars is depicted there. Now, this is the mantra to Mars. It is Om Hum Srim Mangalaya Nama. Mangalaya or Mangala is the name of Mars in ancient Sanskrit. And there are different mantras to Mars. This is not the only one, but this is kind of the key and central one that we can use. And let's see, if we were to chant the longer version of this mantra to Mars, what would it say in Sanskrit? Here's what it says in the ancient texts. Supporting the womb of all existence. Mars shines forth with the radiance of beauty enhanced by love, the sun wielding energy in his hand. We bow down to Mars, bearer of welfare. Om, we bow down to Mars, bearer of welfare. Now, as I was saying earlier, when we go back to the far ancient texts, when we go back to the original way that these planets were understood, it often shows us a very, very different personification, a very, very different energy than what we've been told about in our modern times. This is all part of the propaganda. This is all part of the conditioning. Mars was never meant to be this violent, aggressive, confrontational being. That is not what he stands for. The first words in this Sanskrit text are supporting the womb of all existence, right? So he is here to protect the divine feminine. He is here to support and uphold the womb of existence. That is the divine feminine, that is the energy of creation, right? And he is shining with the radiance of beauty enhanced by love, right? This is just incredible. And so what I've seen in my meditations as I've worked and gone deeper with the energy of Mars is this figure that's almost like Archangel Michael. And that's kind of the picture that I have here, right? It's like this Archangel Michael figure. And he does hold a sword, but it's not to fight. It's not to kill. It's to cut through the lies and illuminate the truth. It's to bring forth the radiance of beauty in our world. It's to protect all that is holy and sacred, which the feminine is at the top of the list of what is holy and sacred in our world. And he knows this, and he stands for that protection. So let us really open our hearts and open our minds to a very new understanding of the planets, especially the malefic. I'm putting again air quotes, the malefic planets like Mars and Saturn. Also, Pluto is somewhat deemed malefic. Let's rewrite the story on that, or let's actually go back to the original story and connect in with what is true. That is my invitation for you here today. So what Mars is going to be doing from 2025 to 2028 and how he's contributing to these outer planet transits is that, you know, he moves quite quickly compared to those outer planets. And he is going to come through, like you see him coming through that chart on August 11th. He's lining up exactly with all those outer planets. He's opposing Saturn and Neptune. He's forming a grand air trine with Uranus and Pluto. Incredible, very direct, very precise. So he's going to come through and move through the chart and activate those 4 outer planets as he goes around. And he is adding the sacred masculine intent, clarity, and forward movement to catalyze the plans of those slower moving outer planets into action. And that is incredible. So he's playing a vital role here as well. Now, with all that said, we have Sekhmet here, and she says, things are only impossible until they are not. So I want to really invite you, having shared all of this today, I want to invite you into an amazing opportunity. And I'm going to share a different screen to speak about this. So bear with me while I bring that other screen up. There is a new course which I've created that's going to allow us to connect in with this incredible energy of the malefic and outer planets. And here is your invitation to this course. Now, this is going to be a part of the Quantum School, and I'm super excited to bring this course forward on the Quantum School. It is called The Transformative Magic of the Malefic and Outer Planets, and it starts just a week from today on July 29th. It will go till September 9th, and it will be a 6-module course. I'll put the link to this in the chat soon on Zoom and YouTube. And if you're watching this later as a recording, just scroll down, find the link in the description field, and you can check this out at your own pace. Now, this is going to be an incredible, incredible journey. As you can imagine, I've shared with you briefly today about the malefic and outer planets. There is so much more depth to each and every one of them. And that's why I wanted to create this class, because we are going to be working with them so strongly, and they're going to be working with us, right? There are changes, evolution, new developments, up levels that these planets want for each of us and for our society as a collective at this time that are going to be flowing in. And we want to be able to really meet them at the highest frequency within ourselves so that we can receive the gifts of these transits, so we can be working ahead of the curve, so that we can be really opening our hearts to the unknown and the changes in the highest way, and welcoming all that magic into our lives, because all of these planets I've talked about are bringing incredible levels of magic to us from 2025 to 2028. And the more closely we're connected with them, the more we're opening our hearts and minds to what they want to bring us, the gifts they want to send, the more we will receive, and the more amazing and magical and synchronistic our lives will become. So I invite you into these questions. What if there is far more to our connection with the stars and planets than what we have been told? What if the planets are highly intelligent beings who have been guiding and supporting us since the beginning of time? And what if the planets considered malefic by modern astrology are actually our greatest allies in creating the true and lasting transformation that we seek? Well, when we connect and work with these incredibly powerful planets, the possibilities are endless, and we can deeply understand the vast mythological rebirthing of society that is occurring during this momentous time. You can let them help you to rise above your fears and limitations and truly become the most powerful and fearless version of yourself. And here, this image of me in Abu Simbel in Egypt, holding the Ankh, holding the light, right? This is like, yes, this is what is possible for us. All this light is streaming in. So this 6-week course is going to be a deep dive into the potent significance, meaning, and archetypes of these lesser understood planets that are so important for us to connect with and understand: Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And together we're going to explore the true and ancient original understandings of these planets, as we just looked at with Mars today. We're going to do that with each of these planets and really, really connect in with what this means for our soul, what this means for us in this particular lifetime, and how we can work with these energies. So in each session, we're going to get to know the planets very deeply. Each session is going to focus on a different planet, so you can just feel in such profound connection and communion with that planet in your life. And also, I will guide you in a beautiful shamanic journey in each class to really help you form that true connection, connecting with the original ancient energies, clearing your shadows, transmuting polarities, and rising into resonance with these incredible mythological occurrences in our world at this time. So I'll let you come and check this all out at your own pace. I want to go and show you the slides. This is one of my favorite images from Egypt. I'm going to put the link here into the chat for you all. Here is the link. And I'll put that in on YouTube as well, in case you want to check it out at your own pace. So here are the program details. These classes will be held on Tuesdays at the same time as this live webinar started, 11 a.m. New York time. Classes will be 2 hours long. They will include a live Q&A at the end of each class. And here are the dates. We start on July 29th and it goes till September 9th. We have one break week, which is actually that August 11th week, because that's my birthday week. So that will be a great time to integrate and go out and do your practices with the planets. And these classes will be held live on Zoom. You'll have full access to me live. You can ask questions about anything that I'm sharing. If you can't attend live, we will send out the recording very soon after, definitely within 48 hours or less after each class. So don't worry if you can't be there live for all of them. Okay, so here are our exciting modules of the course. Module 1 is Mars, who holds the sword of truth to cut through lies and illusions. And you saw just a little bit about Mars as I shared on these slides today. We're going to really connect in with this true and ancient sacred masculine energy. This is such a powerful energy for us to connect with. You know, I didn't even mention in the slides today, but Mars holds these really powerful retrograde times. We just came through one, November to February 2024 to 2025, where he really helps us to make the changes in our life that we need so we can get prepared, we can get things lined up in your life to receive the most from the next Mars retrograde. And we're going to talk about the important role of the sacred masculine in our collective societal rebirth and how the masculine is being reborn and must be reborn in our world. So there's so much here. We're going to dive into all of that. We're going to do a very powerful shamanic journey to connect with Mars and let him come in at your side as your protector. It's going to be amazing. Module 2 will be about Saturn, the father of time, structure, and legacy. All right, so we're going to connect with the planetary rite of passage that Saturn brings to us. And we're going to talk about how to really have conversations with Saturn, how to allow his wisdom, his lessons, the learnings he wants us to receive to come in so we can receive them more quickly and move out of that frustration. You know, like it's just so important for us to have a relationship with Saturn, especially if you're feeling stuck, especially if you're feeling the weight of Saturn on you right now, because the quicker that we pay attention and learn his lessons and appreciate and understand what he's trying to show us, then we get to move out of being stuck. We don't have to be stuck anymore. It's incredible. And we're going to work with Saturn in coordination with the root chakra, because in alchemy, those two are connected. And this really changes everything in your relationship with how to move out of those stuck places and get things into motion in your life where they've been stalled. We will have a powerful shamanic journey with Saturn to see your soul's timelines and help you connect with that true and highest path that you're meant to be on. Okay, and then Uranus. Cue the lightning bolts. Uranus is with us. This is going to be a very fun and exciting module where we will work with the energies of change, revolution, and rebellion, and the power of surprising yourself, letting yourself be surprised by what you do next. This is really all about our freedom. You know, I think freedom is possibly the thing that we all want more than anything else in our lives. We feel the restrictions, we feel financial limitations, we feel the restrictions of age or the 3D, and we're ready to be free, right? We're ready to step outside of these societal constructs that are so limiting and conditioning. Like this, it just goes so deeply. It's on so many levels in our lives. So we're going to really be in this place of rejecting that which tries to define and limit us and setting ourselves free. And we're going to work with the energies of Uranus to find out how that is meant to show up in your life in the highest way for the highest good for you and your future. So, there's also this really important part about how Uranus is liberating us from our collective societal insanity, right? So stepping outside of all that and claiming the truth and claiming liberation. It's going to be really a powerful session. We'll have a shamanic journey with Uranus to calm our nervous system, because Uranus is so deeply connected with the nervous system. He is that electric impulse running through us, so that we can feel calm and at peace as we embrace our liberated future. Then, Module 4 on August 26th, we will work with Neptune. Now, it's so interesting because Neptune and Pluto too, they're like even hard to put into words, you know, and so this is so vast that the possibilities are literally infinite with Neptune. And we'll be connecting with the Piscean energies too. You want to keep in mind that each of these planets has its zodiac sign that it rules. In the case of Neptune, it's Pisces, and that's where the North Node is right now. So we are being called into our future through this Neptunian Piscean energy, this watery, starry, multidimensional energy of really embracing the oneness, embracing love and compassion. And I think this is a point where we're going to see a big shift in our world in the coming years, out of war into love and compassion. And we want to strengthen that. We want to amplify that, not only in our lives, but also in the whole collective. So this is going to be a really powerful session as well. And we'll have a shamanic journey into the watery subconscious layers of your symbolic self to reestablish the foundation of your existence in connection with all of those multi-dimensions. Okay, and then module 5, Pluto. Now, Pluto is our greatest light and power, which can only be found on the other side of the veil, right? So we're going to really look at the times in your life that were the dark nights of the soul, the portals to your rebirth, and really appreciate and thank those energies that helped you through those rebirthing portals. And then look at, what do you want to rebirth in your life now, right? Where is Osiris guiding you to connect in with the infinite nature of who you are and really claim your power, claim your sovereignty, claim your free will and your destiny, and move forward in a new way, a rebirthing way that you did not think was possible before. This is also about our greatest capacity, really living into our greatest power, our greatest capacity. So this will be an amazing module as well. And then for the final module on September 9th, as we're moving toward the equinox, we will look at how they all are working together to catalyze your bright and vibrant future. So we'll look at this in a collective sense. We'll also look at this on a personal sense. I may even be able to do some birth chart readings in this class. We'll see how the time allows, but I want to really bring this in for you and how it relates to you in your chart as much as I can. So we're coming back to our true and original technology, which includes astrology, which includes life itself. We'll look at the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. We'll look at Pluto and Uranus trining each other from 2025 to 2028. And we're going to look at how those will show up in our lives in very real and practical ways so that you will know how to move forward with all of this information and vast energies that we're exploring here. Okay, so with all that said, here is the investment. Now, as part of the Quantum School, I and we on the Quantum School team are just really delighted to make this available on a donation basis in the spirit of sacred economics and financial sovereignty. And that is the spirit of these planets, right? Sovereignty and just infinite possibilities. So the true value of this course, I have put it here at $888 US. I think honestly, it's even higher than that, but that is the value of all the wisdom, the knowledge, the learning that's gone into this and my experience in guiding people astrologically and astronomically. And we want to make this available to you with no financial restriction, no financial limitation, so that you can come in and join at the amount that is right for you. We were talking about this just before we went live with the webinar, that this donation-based model is so magical to work with, because what we see happening is people come in who at this point in time are not able to afford very much, in some cases. They come in and the doors open to all the possibilities. And then you find the finances beginning to flow in magically, even though that's not what this course is about. But then you've opened a door for the abundance of the universe to come in. And then you can get involved in more ways. And then you can create more in your life and change the world, right? So we're opening the door to that. And on the other hand, I know that there are those of you out there who have the financial means to maybe pay the regular price, or maybe pay, half of the regular price, and that you'll send that higher amount because you want to support the school, you want to help us to, carry forward this mission and do this amazing work. So everybody can send the amount that you feel is right for you. Everybody is in their true financial sovereignty around joining, and it just creates an amazingly positive energy for everybody as we all come together in this class. So let me just put the link to join once again in the chat. And there's the link on Zoom. And let me go to YouTube. Here's the link again on YouTube. Now, if you're watching this later as a recording, just know that if you scroll down right below the video, you will see the link in the description field. So I hope you will come and join me. Registration closes on Monday at the end of the day because our class begins on Tuesday, July 29th. And I want to make sure you all have the Zoom link by then if you're joining. So make sure to join no later than the end of the day, Monday, July 28th. But just join right now if you know you're ready, because why wait? This is going to be an amazing journey, and I'm so excited to share it with you. And let's see, I feel like there's one more cool quote here that I want to read to you. Yeah, so this is a quote from Elias Lonsdale. This is one of these amazing books that's called Inside Planets that has added deeply to my astrological understanding of reality. And he says, "It is now the time in our collective cycle to become united with a much deeper and more fundamental level of reality. Astrology is an excellent focus for going into these deeper roots of the human experience. We view the rhythms of development with confidence in a guiding power and with great interest and enthusiasm for the journey which each life embodies. Star knowing breeds star living." I just love that, and this is an invitation into star living for all of us here. And so we are just so delighted to bring this to you. So everybody, go ahead, please, and do put your questions in the chat. And I know Anna is here. Anna, have you been collecting questions? That would be so amazing. Thank you for assisting with that. So let's see what some of the questions are. Sandra is saying, what time will the classes be? They will be at 11 a.m. New York time on Tuesdays, starting July 29th. So that full information, I'll put the link to the course one more time here. That full information is right here on the page. So let's see, Anna, what are any questions that you might have collected that feel most important? And I'll also look at some in the chat.
At the very beginning of the presentation, there was a question, what symbolism do you see presenting correlating to the ram and bull with the present water bearer of Aquarius?
Interesting. Well, so there's a really cool thing that each of these archetypes that we move through the great ages of time. So we move through the age of Leo, and then the age of Cancer, and the age of Gemini, which is actually the age of Gemini is when we came into duality, where we began to perceive ourselves as not exactly part of the oneness anymore, right? So I could go on and on about that, but they collectively build upon each other. So now as we're entering into the age of Aquarius, we still have the incredible symbolism from the age of Taurus, right? We have the great goddess Hathor. Oh my goodness, we can turn to her, we can work with her. We have these connections with the constellation Taurus, which was actually recognized since at least the previous age of Taurus, 26,000 years before that, because we see it on the caves from 40,000 years ago. We see it in the ancient prehistoric cave paintings, the constellation of Taurus. But we can look to Taurus and we can work with those energies. Also, the age of Aries and the ram symbology, we can go to Karnak Temple and work with that, and we can pull it all forward. And I think one of the really important things that we need to do, and actually, amazing astrologer Heather Ensworth speaks about this quite a bit, we can heal what happened in the age of Aries, right? All the wars, all of the, and this is what happened with the planet Mars, where it was like misaligned, right? It was taken into this conception of the patriarchy that was false. This is not how reality actually works. But we were shown these things and we became, kind of indoctrinated with that war indoctrinated with the patriarchy through that age. Now that we're in the time of Aquarius, we can send healing back through those ages. We can heal our relationship with Mars, as we're going to do in this class. We can heal our relationship to the sacred masculine, right? We can heal and do this collective work to help end the wars, to end the violence. So there is so much that we can do to reach back in time, connect with those energies, whether they were showing up in really positive ways, in really destructive ways. We can do the healing where it's needed. We can connect with the great goddess Hathor still today as she's carried forward to us, right? And we can keep working with those energies of the great ages. So that was a great question. And I hope that I answered it for you all.
Chills. Chills for that one. Let's heal all of that. Beautiful. There's so many in the chat just coming in. Let me people were asking about the book, but I think your wonderful community put all of the Pick a Tricks book in the chat for you. There is a question from Rania. Could you please share the words to speak to Saturn? And I wonder if you might be sharing that in the course. And there's another question about Saturn. Could you explain the Saturn return a little bit more?
Yes, I saw that question. I wanted to come back to that. So yes, in the class, we will work with the mantras to the planets. So we'll talk more about that. I don't want to go into all the mantras here because we don't have time to, but in the class, we'll work with the mantras to the planets. And interestingly, the planets that were more newly discovered, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, we don't have ancient Sanskrit mantras to those planets, but we can work with the energies and find out what the mantras should be. So we'll be doing all that in the class. It will be really fun. But the Saturn return is really important. So I will say more about that. So the Saturn return, as I mentioned, it's going to show up first in our life at age 28 to 30. So that is the time when Saturn, as he is traveling in the sky, in the transits, in the zodiac, comes back to the point in the zodiac where he was when you were originally born. When you are around the age of 30. Saturn takes about 30 years to go the whole way around, right? So when you're about 30, he comes back to that point and he lines up with your natal Saturn. And that is such a powerful time of change in our lives. So I'll tell a little bit about the differentiation between the first Saturn return at around 30 and the second one at age 60, because I'm sure we have people in the audience that are in both of those places right now. So around the first Saturn return between 28 to 30 years old, this is a time when we have often been, having fun in our 20s, doing the, social things and probably starting our career and, having fun in the world, hopefully getting out and being social and, enjoying life. And Saturn is going to come in at that time and he's going to say, okay, what responsibilities do you have and do you know that you need to take care of? And what is the highest path and purpose that you want to choose going forward for your life? And he's going to ask us to get a little more serious at that time, which is really hard. That's really, really hard. I know for me, that was around the time that I was having my first child and my spiritual awakening happened as a result of the birth of my first child. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. How do we take in this new information and this new path? And as I was mentioning earlier, usually when we're in our late 20s, coming into our 30th year, we may be traveling along this merry little path over here, and we may have a career, and we may be saying, this is great. I'm doing good work in the world. I think I'm following where I need to follow. But what Saturn knows is this other path over here is actually the one that we're meant to be on. And he will put obstacles in that wrong path. He will, like make us divert, make us slow down, make us really frustrated, but it's all for the highest good because he wants to bring us back to this path over here. And so through the lessons and learnings that we get, trying to go down that path we thought was the right one, running into those obstacles, we end up coming over to the highest path eventually. And this is why I say that when we open our hearts to Saturn, when we have conversations with Saturn, we actually don't have to go through so many obstacles to get to that highest path. We actually can learn the lessons more quickly, make the adjustments faster, and get on to that highest path and get on with our highest work, even sooner. So that's what happens at 30. And hopefully at that time we figure it out. Maybe by the time we're 32 or 33, we've changed paths. I know for me, I was leaving corporate then. By that time I got to like 33, 34, all the lessons from Saturn had sunk in. I realized corporate wasn't aligned with my soul. I was getting off that path. I was starting Sacred Planet, so that's the kind of shifts and changes that Saturn asks of us at that time in the way that's uniquely right for each of us. So then 30 years later, at the second Saturn return, this is another really big one because what we're ideally meant to be doing from 30 to 60 is building more and more on that highest path that Saturn wanted us to get on. So we can have different experiences when we get to 60. When we get to 58 to 60, Saturn is kind of asking us to do a review. And he's asking us, what have you been busy with since you were 30? What have you been working on? Was it aligned with that highest path? And for many of us, it was, right? And so he may have another new path that he wants to send us on, or he may say, pat on the back, good work. You did what you needed to do, and you can continue on. But if we haven't been, that's where he's going to really come in at that second Saturn return. If we haven't been following that truest path of our highest contribution, right? If we've been confused about our purpose, and this is, it's not our fault. We're all trying to do our best. But if we haven't been living our purpose, if we haven't been in highest alignment with that path, if we haven't been building our legacy work, then there's going to be another, major redirection like there was at 30. There's going to be another major redirection at 60. So some of you may be feeling that right now. However it's happening for you, you can trust it. And this is one of my biggest invitations, is like when we're going through a dark night of the soul with Pluto, or when we're going through a major life transition with Saturn, really trust it, because these planets are always with us. They're always guiding us. And it's not only the planets, it's all of our other guides as well. We have so much help. We have so much support. So you can really trust what's happening. And that's kind of a little bit of the awareness of the first and second Saturn returns that might be interesting for the group here.
That's beautiful, Jocelyn. I'm just hearing like he's supporting us, right? Like just directing us to the right path. And speaking of directing to the right path, I put something in the chat that was incorrect. And so everyone's asking you, what time are the classes? How long are they going to be? Do you have lifetime access?
Okay, yes, you will have lifetime access to all the recordings and all of the materials that we look at in the class, because I'm going to give you some extra resources if you want to dive deeper with these planets. And so the classes will be at 11 a.m. New York time on Tuesdays, starting July 29th. Yes, yes, yes. So it will be 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern time. It'll be, let's see, 4 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. CET, and so on and so forth. Yes. Jacqueline says, I'm still trying to find my truest path since I hit 60 and now I'm 64. Yeah, and that's the thing with Saturn is it doesn't happen overnight with Saturn. You know, it takes time, it takes some patience, but you're getting there, Jacqueline, and you're getting closer and closer. So this is a great question from Deborah here. Why is Saturn a he? So you will hear me talking about the planets, and you will hear me say, Saturn, he does this. You'll hear me if we're talking about Venus, I'll say she's doing that. And the planets, it's very interesting. They have these personalities, and they've been seen across the ages as these beings, and naturally as humans, we kind of tend to say he and she and all that. If that's not aligned for you, you don't have to speak of them in that way. For me, it feels aligned. Okay. And we have an interesting being with Mercury where he can be both. He's kind of androgynous. He can be a he can be a she, and it's all good. So they're like us. They're they're they have these personalities, they have these intelligences, and so sometimes it can help us to connect with them when we see them in that way as like masculine or feminine. An interesting thing too about the planets is most of them are perceived with these masculine qualities, so that is something I'm questioning. That is something I'm like kind of in pondering with myself about. We have the moon and Venus that are considered feminine. We have many, many asteroids that are all considered feminine. So there's actually this huge feminine energy as we look at it in the asteroids. So we have Ceres, we have Pallas Athena, we have Vesta. These are all great goddesses out there in the asteroid belt. So it's very interesting how they've been named over the years. And it's just like it's astronomers naming them, at least in recent times. The things that have, the asteroids and the further out planets that have been discovered in the last few hundred years, they're named by astronomers. Um, so, there's a lot we could go into here, but that's what I'll say briefly in answer to that question. I will be referring to them as he and she in the class, and so, that's kind of part of how I relate to them, but you can certainly do differently if that doesn't feel aligned for you.
Beautiful. So we have some questions about how long each class is going to be and if you need astrological knowledge.
Yes, great question. So each class will be 2 hours because I have so much to share with you. So they will be 2 hours long each. Again, if you can't stay the whole time, it's okay. There will be a recording sent out, so you're not going to miss anything. But if you can be on for 2 hours, that's great. You get the whole full live experience. And what was the other part of the question, Anna? I forgot.
Do you need astrological knowledge to be able
Oh,
to
right.
enjoy this course?
Yeah, no, you do not need astrological knowledge. This is not going to be very intense with analyzing transits and like having to read your birth chart and that kind of thing. As I said, I might do a few birth chart readings in the last class if we have time, because that would be really fun to give, as many of you as possible the insights on that for your own chart. But this is not super analytical astrology focused. I'm going to be talking about things in the big picture. I'm going to be talking what it means for us personally, what it means for us collectively as we're looking at the archetypes of the planet. So you can definitely take this class with no astrological knowledge whatsoever, if that's you. And for those who are astrologers and are deeply interested in learning more about the energies of these outer planets, it's a great place for you to come in and learn more and deepen your knowledge of what these planets mean and then bring that into your chart readings. So for all different, stages of where you are in astrology, it will be appropriate. I see a note here. Chell is asking, do you have a recommendation of where to get your birth chart? I have a free gift that I'll put in the chat that tells you where I recommend pulling a free birth chart. So bear with me one moment while I pull this up. Um, this free gift is the Alchemical Astrology Chart Reading Guide. It's one of my most popular free gifts that I have. And if you get this guide, which I'm putting in the Zoom chat now, I'll put it in the YouTube chat and the YouTube description field. Once you get that, you'll get a PDF ebook that will tell you on one of the first pages how and all the steps. There's just a few steps to it to downloading your free astrology chart. So that is a great place to start. And let me put that in the YouTube chat here too. Free gift. So that again is the Alchemical Astrology Chart Reading Guide. So I hope you guys will enjoy that. All right. So I think we are going to need to wrap up here. We're getting really actually past our planned time. So thank you all for the questions. I'm sorry I can't get to all of them today, but I hope the ones we've got to have been very helpful to those attending. I do want to put the link to the class in the chat one more time here on Zoom. So there's the link to go and learn more, read more about the class, and send in your donation if you would like to join. And I can't wait to see all of you who feel called to join the class in our first class a week from today. We're going to have so much fun. We're going to dive in really deeply. We're going to bring in all the light to, the incredible work that these planets are doing with us. It's going to be an amazing journey. So I just give a really warm welcome to all those who feel called and can't wait to see you in the classes starting a week from today.
And just about the classes, it's 6 weeks, just 6 weeks with a break week,
Yeah.
right? And yes, all of the links. So you'll get I think there's a few more questions. You'll get an email before the class starts. So you'll always be reminded. And yes, all the links will be in the replay email. So you'll have all of that as well. Thank you for the work that you're doing for this world, Jocelyn, to help us heal.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Yeah. Thank you so much for your love and support here on the call today. I so appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And so much love to all of you out there. It's been so fun to gather with you today. And yes, thank you, Valerie. Blessings to all of you for this Mary Magdalene feast day. This is such a powerful day, July 22nd. And I've been feeling flowing in since the beginning of the day today, this lineage of Isis and Mary and the Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, all of that ancient feminine wisdom lineage flowing through so strongly. So sending love and light and blessings to all of you on this very powerful and holy day in honor of Mary Magdalene as well. All right. Much love, everybody. Bye for now. I'll see you again soon. Mwah.